I want to talk about the difficulties that we've had with like family members and friends. What were some of the difficulties for both of you?
I know for myself personally, I've spent a lot of time over the years really trying to build true friendships with people I know I can trust and people that love me for my heart and my soul, rather than my accolades and you could say benefits that I could provide them. So I didn't have the hardest time in discussion with them about it. However, the difficulty is in allowing them to see what I see. And it's always difficult when you've got people that are very about the way they are, they're unapologetic nearly about it. So for me, I found that the hardest part was allowing them to understand that I'm still who I am. I'm just less sinful. I'm not sinless because it's not possible.
Well,
But I'm you know,
yes.
I try.
Let's not get technical.
All right. I try to eliminate as many faults as I can now, and I try to live a cleaner life, and allowing them to try to understand that thought processing has been the hardest thing. Allowing them to understand the scripture as to how it so strongly applies in our life is an incredible aspect. And I know when I was speaking to one of my friends, Daniel, this was a big concept that he was struggling to understand. But as there was pieces of the Bible I was explaining and discussing, you could see his eyes start to open a little bit about these areas because he goes, all right, see that I can understand, that I can, believe, that I can get around because there's truth in it. And it's applicable to our everyday life. And that's the big thing. So much of the scripture is applicable to our everyday life. But that was a really difficult task in allowing them to just understand that there's so much life to come, start looking towards it. And, we've planted seeds and I'm just allowing God to certainly do what he's got to do.
What about you?
I would say it's because you go to your family, you go to your friends, you're trying to express the good news as a form of gospel. Exactly, right. Because it's truth. And in your brain, you're thinking, oh, they're gonna understand. They're gonna know what's going on.
That's it. Oh my goodness.
And then you start speaking to them, and then you're the crazy one.
Yeah. Hey.
That's
what you did. You did the same thing.
It's true.
You did the exact same thing.
And that's the funny thing about it. Why it's probably because you look at that cycle in itself. I didn't believe. Now I was believing. And it's like, why didn't they believe? And it's like, well, that's I guess why the whole nature of people find it so hard to come to faith because they don't see it yet, and that's fine. But I mean, you try and preach the good work, as I said, and I feel like I've gone into a few conversations now. And I've really got people on the back foot being like doing what you do, all these things, how it applies to life. And they're like, nah, I don't believe it anyway. And it's just like, that's the defense.
That's what you have. Yeah, they don't have a defense.
The truth is, it's called, and I may have said it before, but it's called 3 dimensions worth of thought. And I look at people in 3 ways. There's one, they have one-dimensional thought, which this is one that you guys will be aware of. It's when you say something in response to their opinion or their comment, and they've got no response back other than abuse or don't worry about it. Because the answer is they have not thought about it any further. The second dimension is they've given it some thought. It's kind of their opinion, but, they've kind of heard it once or twice from somewhere else, and now they've formed the understanding on it, and they kind of still say more or less the same thing. The third is a true belief. They've really thought about it. They've wrestled with the idea. They've kind of gone back and forth with a few of their friends, and now they've come to understanding what they are, right? That's the real point against what you said. They don't actually know what they're saying, and they don't even know what they believe because they haven't even thought far enough to understand it.
But I'm wondering whether it's purely because, we all have the same train of thought, more or less. We like to look deeper, like to understand. So I wonder whether it's ignorance is bliss,
Oh yeah, that guarantee.
It's kind of hard. You're trying to go out there and you're trying to express it. No one wants to accept you as well for what you're trying to tell them, even though you know it's the truth. And
that's it.
It just gets harder and harder.
And as it's said, just then, it's like ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is temporary.
Yeah.
Right, because there will be a moment where that ignorance is shattered, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, but that's just what it is. And people struggle to accept the change.
Mm.
Right? People don't like change very often. I know when I was younger, I
You-
certainly did not like change. But change is growth, right?
That's right.
You need to be willing to stretch your bubble in order to see how far you can grow.
That's right.
And God has incredible things for everyone. And if you're not willing to take those steps, you'll miss out on a life
That's
of
right.
incredible
It's
opportunity.
gone. Absolutely.
You know what's that point there actually rests me big time because I remember back when I was little, little being like high school, and we had this like I think she was like 11-year-old or something in our class. She was like genius, right? And I was in like a year 11 physics class. And this girl was just answering like it was nothing. I was like, this is really weird. But anyway, and she made like I remember a teacher being like, "So, what's everyone really afraid of in life? You know, why is it that you just don't do more?" And I'm sitting there like a dud. I don't know. Got no idea. This little 11-year-old girl goes, no one's is happy to accept change and get out of their square, their bubble. And I remember sitting there, I'm like, that's a really good answer. And he goes, yeah, that's exactly correct. I'm like, this kid's smart. But like, you know, but it sat with me because it's such a true point, and no one does like to, as you've just pointed out. So like, I think that's been a big point in my life, realizing that from this 11-year-old girl about the simple fact that you don't go out your bubble. So maybe try to and see where it takes you.
And the enemy has done such a good job in bringing such fear in people's lives that when you're in fear and when you're scared, the last thing you want to do is find out what else is there.
Yeah, he's past that wall. He's past that bubble.
You will rather sit in your box, and it's the saddest, but you would rather sit in a prison
And rot
Yeah.
for years than
Yep.
potentially step outside and think you might die.
Right.
But you never leave, even though the door's open.
Yeah.
Door's open the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Never closed. So-
Absolutely. What about you?
So the difficulty that I had wasn't particularly persecution, but no one, like I said, no one believed in what I had to say at all, like nothing, right? And it didn't make any sense to me because, like what you've said, you've tried to have a really tight knit group of people around you. I was a bit more of a mass friendship group kind of thing. I would, of course, gravitate towards one or two individuals heavily, but I would still like to be in a group of people, right? I just enjoyed it. But no one listened, not at all. They only saw me, and the look in their eye was like, you can't be serious. Like, it was like, can you like not talk about this with me? Like, I just don't want to hear it. Like that. And I'm like, I've been with you for so many years, and I thought that we loved each other. I thought that this meant everything. And you don't even sit there and consider what I have to say. What's he saying? Okay, interesting. Right, let me see what he's talking about. Right, nothing, zero. It ran away from it as far as possible. That was probably the biggest difficulty, like just seeing that, because that almost just it wasn't even just the way that it made me feel, but it was the way that I saw the people in my life were not real people. And that's the issue with the sin and the life that I had, right? Because that they lived a lifestyle of heavy sin, and I was just part of that. The second I stepped out of that, I looked like a completely different person.
Yep.
Right.
And it goes into an interesting concept of you are who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when it goes both ways, if you surround yourself with really fruitful, really beautiful people that want to see you grow, people that want to see you progress, that's what you're going to experience.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself, unfortunately, with people that are negative, they're low, right? They're having their own difficulties in life, and you all feed off each other's negativity, you will mutually go down that path. And it's so hard. It's so hard to break that chain, particularly as a one-man band where you're trying to lift everyone up together, because you're seen as the outlier now.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
they no longer want you a part of that system. So it's a really difficult thing to break.
Yeah, just like what you were saying, just right out of the Bible. If you are of the world would love you. If you're not, the world is going to hate you.